Half-time in the Diabetes Dockerty Cup Final, it's South Melbourne 1, the Melbourne Knights 0, and what an unusual first half. Melbourne Knights totally dominating for the first half an hour. Andrew Marth goes off injured, Frank McGrellis, and things seem to come off the rails for the Knights. Then they had a couple of players go down hurt. Danny Tiato was down for a while, Spiteri was down, and all of a sudden the game changed and South Melbourne really took over, and that great goal by Trimboli.
Yeah, it was a fantastic start by the Knights, and really Joe Spiteri, I felt, could have put them ahead on one or two occasions. It's just coincidental that Andrew Marth limps off, and within a minute, tremendous goal by Paul Trimboli gets South Melbourne ahead. So there's a bit of talking to do at half-time now with both coaches, and Mirko Bajic is going to be asking questions of his strikers, I believe. And
of course, Andrew Marth's a focal figure, Blakey. They'll miss him in the second half.
Yes, I did the homework, Paul, and I understand, and this is going to be followed up, that the tragedy here that Andrew Marth may well have re-injured that cruciate knee injury that has caused him so many problems. His knee was fallen across now as we record this program. There's no guarantee that he might not be out for a significant period of time, which is a great tragedy for the game because he's a terrifically inspirational skipper.
Big blow for the Melbourne Knights, of course, the club captain down there as well. OK, we'll take a break and we'll be back with the second half of the Diabetes Dockerty Cup.
Paul Magdic, not necessarily unknown, skipper of the Melbourne Knights youth team, which went all the way to the grand final last year. A player of some quality too, Paul. I'll tell you right now, is young Paulie Magdic.
Well, he may get his chance to show us his quality if it keeps going like this, the way the Melbourne Knights seem to be struggling with injuries. And the good shot in there from Kursager.
Markovski, good game from him in the sweeper's role for the Knights. Did mostly bench time last season, Big Zoran, former Morwell Falcons player. Diamicius lofts one. Switches play, grandstand side. Good turn by Pondriak. Stutter step, goes second time for Silic. Makes the break, Mark Silic. Toward the line, Mark Silic. Drags it back, and no, not a goal. Off the bar. Spiteri, second chance. And it was knocked over finally by Vaughan Coveney, or Mick Peterson rather, in desperation. Should have scored after his transfer from the Parramatta Eagles. And was in the grand final lineup for the Knights last year. Good move, 1-2. Wojtek has to scramble back. Diamicius in the attacking half. Stop and go by little Fausto. Edges it inside, Wojtek down the middle. Pondriak, good finish. Great move, great finish. Damien Wojtek, big assist. Ollie Pondriak, splendid finish, and the Knights are back on terms.
And finally, the offside trap that South Melbourne have employed for most of this season to date has come unstuck. And it was the pace of Pondriak that beat it, and the astuteness of the pass from Damien Wojtek.
Well, it was a great release from Wojtek. Timed it perfectly, didn't he? And there's Takis Fingos, the coach of Port Melbourne, looking on.
Here's Razov. Poor ball from him. Coveney took over, trying to use his speed. Markovski anticipating that particular move. Beza, tremendous ball inside to Trimboli. Here's Coveney. Just touched it wide to Peterson. White shirts all over the place here for South. Kursager. Peterson in space. That space is closed down and he's forced to go back to Mangos. Beza. Working it onto that favoured left foot of his. He's got past Silic. Trimboli tried to touch it. Coveney. There it is. Vaughan Coveney has put South Melbourne in the lead. And again it was a cross by Tanzil Beza that set up the opening.
Critical that Fausto Diamicius.
Coveney's on the near post. Beza just behind him. Coveney flick on. And now the Knights have a chance to break with Tiato. Finds Wojtek on the right-hand side. Plenty forward for the Melbourne Knights. He's been brought down from behind.
Well, Vaughan Coveney made up about 20 metres in that foot race.
Silic will take the free kick. Little chip in, away by Blatsis. South Melbourne will push out quickly, no doubt. Lipsansky holds play up. In fact, gives the ball away. Peterson in space. Baiser free on the left, and Peterson's found him with a tremendous ball. Baiser in the penalty area, clips it across, own goal. And Tanzel Baiser can't do anything wrong today. It was Zoran Markovski who headed past his own keeper.
And you've got to feel a little bit sorry for Zoran Markovski, because otherwise his game has been near enough to faultless. Having said that, for Tanzel Baiser, well, what a special day for the youngster, and South Melbourne have just about wrapped it up. From Con Blatsis, gets the ball back for the Melbourne Knights with not very much time to do an awful lot. 2 goals just to get back in the game. Spiteri again under pressure. Great turn again. Couldn't ask him to work harder. Trouble again.
Hesitation there. Trimboli now. Can he do something? Good tackle by Kovacevic it was. Plenty forward for the Knights here. Silic. They were all on his other side.
Having
South
said
Melbourne onside.
that feed from Silic was a poor one, though.
Billy Deminos, who's made his name as a midfielder, coming on in a striking role to take Kursage's place.
Spiteri can make the most of that under pressure. Curls it back inside. Good take. But South Melbourne quite measured now, as they know the Dockerty Cup is back in their keeping. First time in 3 years. The Morwell Falcons and the Melbourne Knights have both held the trophy in recent times. And another desperation tackle into the book then was Ante Kovacevic, it appears. So a degree of frustration being shown by the Melbourne Knights defenders. Debianos to the far corner flag. Nice relaxed entry into the cup final for him, with the Blues holding a 2-goal buffer. Stabs at that one. One-hand punch by the goalkeeper, Demianos. Second effort offside. Flag was up very early.
Here he is again. Clever ball inside. Demianos. Trimboli. Free is Nikolic. Demianos. Trimboli. The 4th goal.
Well, for a moment it appeared they might have taken one touch too many. They crossed the field from left to right and from right to left.
And perhaps they did, because it hasn't been given. Offside being the reason.
Yep.
And Nikolic had the best opportunity to shoot. Demianos miscontrolled. Trimboli finally finished it off.
Oh, the kids are starting to enjoy it anyway, the South Melbourne kids, that is.
And that will be like turning a knife, I would think, into the Melbourne Knights, having these young, inexperienced players starting to open them up.
The Melbourne Knights, Dean Anastasiadis trundles upfield for this corner, and that's just a touch of arrogance, isn't it, Paul? To see the goalkeeper.
Even if they don't score, they've rubbed salt into the wound with Anastasiadis coming up. Poor corner, considering the big man was at the back.
Sideline ball, South Melbourne. They've got it all wrapped up. The Diabetes Australia 95 Cup Final. Dockerty Cup Final. And the final whistle goes. John Fraser says it's all over in the Cup Final of 95. And South Melbourne, the young South Melbourne team, the vibrant young South Melbourne team, wins the oldest trophy in Australian domestic soccer, Paul. I bet you didn't know that. And what a triumph for Frank Arrock and his coaching crew.
Congratulations all round there from Frank Arrock and assistant coach Andy Postecoglou. Frank Arrock with the Santa Claus-like looking beard. Is this a new look for the coach as well as the team for the next season in the A-League? But they are the Dockerty Cup winners, and they'll go forward now to collect the trophy.
Perhaps a breakthrough victory, Paul.
I think you're right. I think it's setting them on the way for such a promising season. So different from this time last year when they had injuries all over the place. And Mike Peterson gets his medal. Vaughan Coveney managed another goal today. He is the buy of the season so far for South. And then come the youngsters, Anthopoulos, Panopoulos. Billy Damianos just made an appearance of substitute, as did Sasha Nikolic. Mangos and Konblatzis. Michael Kurjika. We'll see more of him without a doubt.
And Tanzel Beza just kissed a man. Which I suppose is right, given such a special performance today, Paul.
Probably man of the match.
Well, I hope that's not the prize. Now look at Frank Arrock.
Frank
Looks
Arrock
like
gets in on
Methuselah,
the
doesn't he?
act.
Look at him.
He's enjoyed that one. That's the first honour he's won with the club. So special in that regard for him. And Paul Trimboli will have the honour of holding aloft the Dockerty Cup, and it weighs a ton. I hope he's big enough to hang on to it. South Melbourne, Dockerty Cup winners for 1995.
And with that, the curtain comes down on the Victorian season. And we'll leave Olympic Park with those scenes of South Melbourne's triumph in the Diabetes Australia Dockerty Cup Final of 1995. The final score once again, South Melbourne 3, the Melbourne Knights 1.